Our next speaker is going to be raising capital expert Brad Blazar. Brad has raised over $2 billion in capital, and Brad is teaching people all across the country and the world how to leverage other people's money so they can grow their business. So whether that be the project, the special project, the business project, the real estate investments, Brad is the go-to guy for this. He's actually my coach as well. So I want to welcome on to High Performance Estimate, Brad Blazar. Welcome, Brad.
Before I get started, let me just give a big thank you to Jason for organizing this and putting this event together. I know how challenging hosting an event can be. I do a big event every year. We did ours last year. It's called Capital Con, where we had some tremendous speakers, people like Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington, people like Sharon Lechter, the co-author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and probably one of the greatest financial literacy minds today. You know, she's been the financial literacy advisor to two U.S. presidents, people like Dr. Kevin Elko. But a lot of people just don't understand what it really means to put a big event like this together. So I really want to applaud Jason. And, you know, the other thing, too, for many of you that are here that may not know Jason or follow him, you know, Jason over the last year has lost over 200 pounds. And I'm really just extremely happy to have watched that journey for him as he's transformed and really got a lot more serious about his personal health. So congratulations. Today, I want to focus on a couple of things that I believe are very, very important. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. You know, yesterday I talked about my beliefs. It's my belief, of course, that everybody in life deserves a great coach. What I have found is people that work with coaches typically out-earn, outperform, and more importantly, have more abundance and more fulfillment in their life. I also believe that if you understand that your life, the life you're currently living, is largely driven by the decisions you've made, whether they're good decisions, whether they're poor decisions, you become a person now that becomes much more reflective, that is able to look at yourself introvertly and start really questioning some of the decisions that you've made. For example, did you wake up this morning and work out? Many of you did. Some of you didn't. You see, that's a decision. We all know subconsciously we should be doing these things throughout our daily lives. But in many cases, we make poor decisions. And as a result of making poor decisions, we experience, of course, less abundance in our life because we have not made the decisions to basically become a money magnet or attract abundance into our lives. I firmly believe that there is a universal natural law of attraction, and we tend to receive what we want to attract. So today, what I want to do is I want to focus on this topic because I think really this topic is very, very important because it's out of this that you're going to see the biggest transformation. You know, one of the things that I talk about when I get on stages is I talk about the importance of really understanding why you do what you do. For example, if I were to reach out to some of the attendees and just randomly pick on any one of you and say, you know, Jeff, why do you wake up and do what you do every day? I would get a very different answer from each and every one of you. You know, Jillian might say it's because I have to. I have a job that I go to. I have an employer that expects me to be there at 9 o'clock when my shift starts. Others might say it's because I have to pay the bills. I have to earn a living. But what I want to share with you today is something that I believe is much, much more important than that. It's what I call really understanding what your purpose is. Because one thing that I have experienced by being around some super successful people, and I'm talking about people that have basically created 8, 9-figure net worths, is they looked at themselves in the mirror one day and they said, I'm going to forgive myself for everything in my past. You see, you can't change what's happened in your life. And if you're not happy with your past, I get it. A lot of us carry a lot of baggage. We come from perhaps a broken homes where our parents were divorced. Some people, of course, come from homes where they don't even have parents. Their parents passed away and maybe they were raised by a relative or they had to, quote, mature and grow up very quickly. But at the end of the day, we're all very similar in some sense. Why? Because we're all humans. We share that common bond. But you see, many people don't really look at themselves introvertly and say, I want more in my life. I was designed for greatness. And the reason that there's so much discontent in our world today, where according to statistics, 67% of the people today have one foot out the door with regards to their job, and they're really, really not happy doing what it is they do. It's because they haven't found what that purpose is. They don't really understand why they get up and they walk out the door each and every day. You see, life's not easy, right? We all understand that concept. You're going to get kicked in the knees. You're going to get knocked down. You're going to wake up when you think you're on top of the world. When you look at your bank account and you're like, wow, I finally accumulated $1 million net worth. And then some major crisis like the Russian-Ukrainian war affects the stock market. And over the course of just a matter of weeks, you lose a couple $100,000. That's reality. That's happening to millions of people all around the world. You know, in California, $7, $8 a gallon for gas, over $100 just to fill up your car. It's putting a financial pinch on a lot of people. Inflation. All of these things are things that we deal with each and every day. But if you understand what your purpose is and why you wake up and you do what you do, what that's going to allow you to do is get back up when you get knocked down. It's going to allow you to continually have what I call that forward motion, constantly be moving forward in your life, constantly chipping away at your goals, at your dreams. Because like I said yesterday, very successful people, we've become so focused on our mind that we're able to block out the noise. We know when there's a limiting belief or when self-doubt raises its head, and we're able basically to hold that down and challenge that in order to do something big and great that initially might scare us, but that we know we can do. And once we do that, our confidence level slowly starts to climb, and we start to realize that we're capable of doing so much more in our lives that we become almost unstoppable. And so I want to share with you a story today to hopefully allow you to get a better sense and really understand what it means to wake up with a purpose in your life. Can I share a story with you all today? You see, I've got a good friend in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. His name is Matt Monero, and Matt runs a couple of businesses that collectively do about $100 million a year in revenue. And I heard him speak a couple of years ago when he was on stage talking about his book, Grit. And he said, I want to share this story. He said, this past year, a couple of days right before Christmas, my sister-in-law came over with her family. And so much like the women like to do, my sister-in-law went into the kitchen with my wife, and they were preparing the holiday meal, getting the ham all ready and putting the ham in the oven and making the pies. And me and my brother-in-law, we went upstairs to the bonus room. That's what we call the TV room here in Texas, the big bonus room. They look like mini theaters with couches and chairs and big screen projection TVs. But anyway, they were upstairs watching a Dallas Cowboys game. And Matt said, right in the middle of the third quarter, my brother-in-law fell asleep on the couch. Now, how in the world you can fall asleep watching the Dallas Cowboys beat up on the Washington Redskins? He said, I don't know, but he did. And so I just let him snooze, and he was snoring away. And then we went into the fourth quarter, and he said a couple minutes into the fourth quarter, my brother-in-law leapt out of the couch, grabbed me by the arm like he had seen a ghost, and I was startled, and I, of course, jerked back, and he was startled, and I could see that there was sweat coming off his brow. And so I looked at him, and I said, you okay? And he said, yeah. He said, I think I must have just had a bad dream or something. And then Matt said he looked at me with a stare that I will never forget. And he said, Matt, can I share something personal with you? And Matt sure. I mean, your family, you're my brother-in-law. He said, I just wanted to share with you the fact, Matt, that I have cancer and it's pretty bad. And Matt just put his head down and he said, oh my God, I'm so sad and sorry to hear that. Like, how bad? He said, well, Matt, the doctors have basically told me it's metastasized and it's spread to my lymph nodes. And I only have about 6 to 8 months, according to what they tell me. Oh, geez, I'm so saddened to hear the news. What does Susie say? Now, of course, Susie was the wife downstairs in the kitchen with Matt's wife, Cookie. He said, my brother-in-law looked at me and he said, she doesn't even know. Your wife, your partner in life does not know that you're dying of terminal cancer? Like, why haven't you told her? Like, what's wrong with you? And his brother-in-law just put his head down in shame. And he said, I can't bring myself to tell her, Matt. You see, I've really messed up. We don't have insurance, and I just don't know what to say. And so Matt literally forced his brother-in-law up out of the couch. He forced his brother-in-law to march downstairs and for the first time share with his wife that he was dying of terminal cancer. This is a true story. And so imagine, with all of our human emotions that evening, which was supposed to be a celebration, tears, hugging, crying, saying, I love you. And it wasn't even 6 months. 3 months later, there was a funeral, and they all said their goodbyes. 2 days later, Matt was downstairs getting ready to go to the office. He was drinking his cup of coffee and eating his breakfast, and his wife, Cookie, came downstairs. And he could tell that she was highly emotional because her mascara had started to run. And so he knew that upstairs she was probably crying. And he turned to her and he said, what's wrong? I can sense that something's wrong with you this morning. She said, yeah. She said, I've been thinking about my sister, Matt. I mean, you heard what he said a couple months ago. They're not privileged people like us. They don't have insurance. And I've just been thinking, like, what is she going to have to do? She's got 3 boys that she has to raise. She's going to have to sell the house. What's she going to do? Get on welfare? She might have to get 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Matt just looked at her and said, God sometimes works miracles. He'll intervene, and Susie and the boys, they'll figure it out. And he went off to work. Later that day, when he came home, he picked up the phone and he called the sister-in-law. He said, hey, we've been thinking about you. And I know it's been real tough, but we'd like to invite you over for the weekend so that we can barbecue and the boys can play in the pool. We would just love to see and be together. And she said, oh man, we love that. So that weekend, they came over and they barbecued and the kids played. And at the end of the night, Matt reached into his sports coat. He was wearing a sports coat, and he pulled out and he handed her an envelope. And she opened that envelope, and inside of that envelope, there was a Hallmark greeting card. But then tears started pouring down her face. She said, I can't take this. He said, yes, you can, and you will, because you're family. Inside that envelope, everybody, there was a check for $3 million. What Matt essentially became was the insurance policy that family never had. And I want to ask all of you, and I want to see you say yes in chat, who wants to be like rich Uncle Matt? Who wants to be like rich Aunt Cookie? You see, that is purpose at the highest level, everybody. When you can be the rock and the foundation in your family that other people can lean on, or when you can become a philanthropist, and when you can basically provide an endowment to your alma mater or donate money to a medical institution to perhaps help find a cure for cancer, that is purpose. And you see, Like Phil said, yes, hell yeah, service for others, create and impact the ripple effects. That's what life really is all about. It's about adding value. It's about asking others, what can I do for you, before you ask them what they can do for you. Lead by adding value first. You see, that's one of the major things I've learned about life that's allowed me to connect with some of the most powerful, influential speakers today. People that have worked with me or that have been on my podcast: John Maxwell, Brad Lee, Sir John Shin, Ed Milet, Bobby Castro, Shark Tank's Kevin Harrington. I shared the stage with many of these people. And what I have found is, by reaching out to them and saying, hey, Kevin, what can I do to help you? He might say nothing, man, it's all great. But you see, I've been gracious enough to lead with value, asking, what can I do to enrich your life, to make you and your life better? Because by doing that, there's a sense of ownership. That's the key to really getting ahead successfully in life. It's waking up and understanding why you do what you do. You see, I've got a good friend, and you can look him up. He's in the Guinness Book of World Records. And when it comes to being almost a superhuman, his name would be in the dictionary right alongside superhuman. I mean, for many of you here that are attendees today who know who David Goggins is, the former Navy SEAL, badass, he's got a podcast, and you see him as a speaker. He don't have anything on my friend Darren Miller. You see, Darren Miller, if you look him up in the Guinness Book of World Records, holds a number of records. Number one, he was the first human in the history of mankind to accomplish something called the Ocean 7, where he completed each one of these 7 swims on the first attempt. Until he had done that, nobody had ever done that. Now, the Ocean 7, for those of you that don't know what it is very similar to the 7 summits, which are climbing the 7 largest peaks around the world. But the Ocean 7 are swimming the 7 longest channels around the world. The English Channel being one of them, the Tsugaru Channel being another, the Cook Strait being a third, Straits of Gibraltar. All of these major swims are 15 to 20 miles in open water. And you don't get to wear a wetsuit, like a scuba diver to keep you warm. All you get are your Speedos, your goggles, and basically your swim cap that glows in the dark so they can see at night. And I said to him, after he was the first human to ever complete all 7 swims on the first attempt. Now, others have completed the Ocean 7, but see, sometimes they had to go back and swim that same swim maybe 2 or 3 times. What makes Darren superhuman is he completed each one on the first attempt. And I said, how in the world do you swim 20 miles in frigid water where the temperature of the ocean might be in the upper 50s, mid 60s, which is cold, where in your subconscious mind, you're swimming along thinking about the worst possible thing that can ever happen, like getting attacked by a shark or getting a cramp. And he said, you see, when I did the Ocean 7, there were 3 boats with me. But really, for all the other swimmers, there were just 2. There's the guide boat that's ahead of you. That's the one that's got the compass. And every time you look up to grab a breath, you see it in your line of sight and you follow that damn boat because that's going to keep you on course. Then there's another little boat that kind of goes around you. It's a little Boston whaler or some nice boat like that, and keeps the sharks away. And what they do is they give you water and they keep you hydrated so you can stop and tread water for a couple of seconds and take a goo, which is usually glucose, just to get the sugar back in your body before you go on and swim a couple more miles. He said, usually there's two boats, but for me, there was a third. He said that that third boat was all of the people that I had lost to cancer. Because what I did in the Ocean 7 is I got people to pledge and donate money for every mile I swam. And as I looked over to that third boat, there was a vision in my mind of all of these people cheering me on, saying, Darren, you got this, man. You're going to crush it. You got another couple miles to go. And he said, that's what allowed me to complete each one of these swims. It was his purpose, finding a cure for cancer, raising money for cancer research. And today, Darren Miller is one of the most acclaimed ultra endurance runners doing 50 and 100-mile races. How he does that, I have no idea, but it's largely driven by purpose. For example, if you open up my book, each one of them right on the inside cover, you'll see it says a portion of the author's proceeds are donated to MD Anderson Cancer Research Center. It's just one of my many purposes in life. It's largely why I do what I do. And so I want to ask each and every one of you basically today to go home and look at yourself in the mirror and basically ask yourself, like, what is my purpose? Why do I do what I do? And once you understand that, you'll have a much better sense of who you are. You'll have much greater direction of where you're going. You'll be able to get up when you get knocked down. You see, like I said earlier, our lives are largely driven by the decisions we've made. Did you wake up and work out today? Did you spend time with your kids? As a husband and father, do you have balance in your life? Or are you so focused on making money that you're really just not present and not there? You see, I've done some really cool, amazing things over the course of my life because when I heard Matt Monero share with an audience what it means to find purpose, I went home and I really looked at myself and I said, what in the world am I doing? It was a major wake-up call for me. And I literally, from that moment forward, made the decision to go pro in all areas. You see, Stephen Covey, in the wonderful book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, talks about this thing called the whole person theory. He said, we as people are basically made up of 4 things. You've got your mind, you've got a physical body, you've got a spirit, and you have a soul. And he said, when there's imbalance in any one of those areas, you don't have fulfillment. You're not living a life of abundance. I mean, after all, what good is it to have abundant wealth, but have very poor health where you could pass and die? What good is it, right, to be so fit, work out every day, you're at the gym, you're buff, you got the 6-packs, but you're neglecting your family. You're not there for them because you're so focused on that one area of your life. And so when you understand this concept of the whole person theory, you're able to focus on having basically abundance in all areas of your life. And when you look at some of the greatest sports teams, teams that go on to win the Super Bowl, teams to go on to win the NBA championships, and you sit down and you analyze what was it about that coach or about that team, more than likely what it was with that coach is he was able to focus on the players and get them not only to play the physical game of basketball, but also to support each other, build a culture as a team, but to understand and get each one of the players to buy into this concept of the whole person theory, where they were making the mental decision to go pro in all areas of their life. You see, it's like I said yesterday. I believe that at some point you make the mental decision to put your amateurish ways behind and you say, I want to wake up tomorrow and go pro. I want to do more. But for a lot of you, you don't know how to do it. It's like you need help. You need someone that's there already to kind of mentor you. so that you can step in their shoes, walk in their steps, and hopefully climb the mountain alongside them. And so, because of my purpose and what I've been able to do in life, both as an entrepreneur, building multiple seven-figure businesses, as well as the philanthropy, I got the honor recently to do something pretty cool and pretty amazing. And it was probably the highlight of my entire career. And what that was for me was to be royally knighted. That's right, Sir Brad Blazar, just like Sir Richard Branson, Sir Anthony Hopkins, Sir Elton John. And this ceremony took place just last month in February at an investiture ceremony where Prince Raphael, who came over from Seville, Spain, which is where he lives, knighted myself and basically 23 other people on what they call merits of honor. It's kind of like the Nobel Peace Prize. It's based on basically one of 8 things. You know, you might be very, very acclaimed in medicine where you found a cure for something. You might be very accomplished in the arts, music, sculpting. In my case, it was because of philanthropy and entrepreneurship. And to be in a royal order alongside other people like James Dentley, whose net worth is up around 600 million, or Lady Toni Braxton, or Paula Abdul, that were knighted by this order a few years ago, is quite an honor. You see, and the reason I'm sharing this with all of you is not to, quote, be braggadocious and brag. It's simply to say that I'm no different than any one of you. You see, any one of you can wake up and make the decision. Because like I said, we are a byproduct of decisions we make. And I made this decision to go pro years ago. And as a result of that, some pretty amazing things have happened, as is the case of me being royally knighted. And the cool thing is that this is not, quote, a fraternal knighting like the Knights of Columbus or Freemasonry. This is a true royal knighting where I now have dual citizenship because the prince has what they call the fount of honor, which means he has been given authority by the state or by a sovereign nation to bestow knighthood on another individual. You see, when the queen knights people, it's not the queen that knights them. It's coming from basically the state of England, the country. And so Prince Raphael has the font honor from the Royal Order of Constantine the Great in St. Helen to bestow knighthood, which is a true royal ceremony, which was pretty cool. But I want to share with you basically 3 things that each of you can do when you wake up tomorrow that'll provide you what I call momentum. Number 1, and you want to write these down, I want you to wake up an hour earlier than you normally do. And I want you to create what I call the morning routine if you don't have one. And my morning routine every day is I wake up and I usually go for a 4 to 6 mile run because I want to focus on my fitness. Many of you here today aren't working out. And it's just a subconscious decision where it's not a priority in your life, but it should be because most of us know we should be doing it. Maybe we're carrying around a couple of extra pounds. But health is such a very, very important component of life. And so one thing that I urge and encourage all of you to do that are not working out with regularity is to just wake up an hour early because that's how you find time. Saying to some other person, I can't do it because I don't have enough time, it's a bullshit cop-out excuse. We all got plenty of time. It's just that you have to make it a priority. So number 1, I want you to wake up an hour early and just get physical. Go for a walk. Go for a run. If you're a member of a fitness center, go to the fitness center, but do something. Create motion in your life. Focus on your health. The second thing I want you to do, every Sunday, I want you to block out 45 minutes to an hour. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at the upcoming week. And I want you on your calendar to start highlighting what are the priorities. You see, here's the problem. Most people live life on the defensive. And what I mean by that is you're responding to things that are happening to you throughout your life rather than living life on the offensive. When you live life on the offensive, great things happen because you plan for success. You prioritize certain things. You wake up with the knowledge of how you're going to command and take command of the week ahead, rather than just waking up, showing up, and basically responding to whatever comes up. It's not the way you want to live life. So 45 minutes to an hour every Sunday, take a look at the week ahead and focus on the priorities. What do I want to accomplish this week? Who do I want to connect with? What do I want to happen? Take out your calendar and highlight those priorities so that you start living life on the offensive. Big difference. And then lastly, number 3 is I want you to focus on yourself. And what I mean by that is I want you to start taking better care of yourself as a person. Your health, your relationships, tell those that are closest to you you love them. Spend time with your kids. Spend time with your spouse or your significant other. But I want you to become what I call somewhat jealous of yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the most important person in your life, and you deserve more. See, it's my belief that we're all manufactured for greatness. When we were all created for greatness. And so if we're all created for greatness by our Maker, why are we all not living great, wonderful lives? Like I said, it's because of decision. Once you understand that, it's like a major change. The light bulb goes off. You see, I've got a trademark on something called the art of beliefology. It is trademarked. No other person on the planet can use that phrase. The art of beliefology is a philosophy that says if you change your habits, they will redefine a new belief system, and that new belief system will create a new identity. And that's how it works. You see, we're creatures of habit. And what you have to understand is that we live in a society today where we all want things quick, right? We want that quick fix. But change, massive change, does not happen overnight. But what does is small incremental changes. It's just like money. They compound and have a compounding effect over time. You see, like I said earlier, Jason's lost over 200 pounds, but he didn't wake up and do that in a month, let alone 3 months. He's been working at it for the last 12, but he walks every day. It's that small, consistent, incremental effort that compounds itself over time. So tomorrow, what new habits are you going to foster in your life? Or are you just going to wake up and do the same thing you've been doing? Because if you do the same thing you've been doing, you're going to get the same results. And it's like I said yesterday, it's my belief you're all here on the High Performance Success Summit because you desire more. You want more, and you're entitled to more. So I want to encourage all of you, if I've piqued your interest, if I've inspired you, if you want help uncovering and finding out really what your purpose is, I want to encourage all of you to come to my boot camp that's coming up next month, April the 8th and 9th. And what you can do is you can spend basically 2 days with me and my team here in Texas. And what we will basically do is we will work alongside of you to help you find out what that purpose is, how to live a life of abundance, how to step into that bigger future. It might be that you want to invest in real estate. Great. It might be that you want to start a business. That's wonderful too. It might be that you just want to continue doing what you're doing, but you really need some help with regards to financial literacy, putting money aside, setting up retirement accounts, basically protecting yourself from litigation because we live in a litigious society. These are all things that I basically teach at my boot camps. So Jason, this does it for me. Everybody, I want to wish you well. And as I like to always wrap things up, live life big.
Thank you so much, Brad Blazar. It was great having Brad on the High Performance Assessment. You definitely want to attend Brad's boot camp coming up in April for sure.